In a quiet suburban town where memories lingered like dust motes in a ray of sunlight, there was a modest home with a kitchen that held the weight of years gone by. A kitchen that, to one man, was the repository of every tender and painful recollection of a love that had both defined and shattered his life. This kitchen, with its worn wooden countertops and the lingering aroma of spices and simmering stew, was once the heart of a life shared. Every creak of the floorboards, every glint from the old copper kettle, whispered the secrets of a past that was as bittersweet as it was relentless. It was here that Michael, a man whose gentle eyes concealed a well of sorrow and resolve, spent countless hours lost in thought, revisiting memories of a time when the kitchen was alive with laughter, warmth, and the promise of a future built together. Michael's life had taken a dark and twisted turn the day he discovered that the woman he had once loved, Elena, his wife, had betrayed him in the most unforgivable way. In a storm of deception and shattered dreams, Elena had not only cheated on him, but had left him utterly alone, abandoning the sanctity of the home they had built together. The very walls of the kitchen, once adorned with joyful echoes of shared meals and whispered confessions, had become a silent witness to a treachery that tore at the very fabric of his soul. For years, Michael's heart had been locked in a state of mournful reminiscence, the kitchen a constant reminder of what was lost. Every spoon stirred in a simmering pot, every clatter of cutlery, evoked memories of a time when Elena's laughter filled the air and her gentle touch warmed his every sorrowed moment. Yet beneath the melancholic nostalgia, a flicker of something else burned, a seed of resolve that had grown slowly with every passing day, nurtured by the pain of betrayal and the inexorable desire for redemption. The transformation began on a day when the kitchen seemed to echo with a silent challenge. A day when the sunlight streamed through the old stained glass window, painting the worn tiles in a mosaic of vibrant colors, as if urging Michael to reclaim what had been stolen from him. The memories were unbearable, a constant reminder of a love that had once been and the deception that had replaced it. But in that moment, as he gazed at the familiar surroundings, Michael made a decision that would forever alter the course of his existence. He would no longer be a passive victim to the ghosts of his past. The betrayal that had left him hollow would, in a final act of defiance, be transformed into the fuel for a quest for justice. A quest for revenge that was as meticulously planned as it was emotionally charged. Over the following months, Michael immersed himself in a study of every detail, every nuance of the life he had shared with Elena. The kitchen, with its every dent and stain, became both his sanctuary and his battleground. Every utensil, every faded recipe book held clues to the intricate web of memories that Elena had woven around him. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the house was shrouded in silence and the past mingled with the present, Michael began to document the minutiae of his recollections. He took painstaking notes, recorded his emotions, and even began to recreate the meals they once shared, each recipe a bittersweet reminder of the intimacy they had lost. But unlike the sorrowful recollections of earlier days, these moments were now charged with an underlying current of determination. They were the building blocks of a strategy, a plan to confront the one who had shattered his heart and to make her face the consequences of her treachery. In the dim light of an early winter evening, as Michael meticulously prepared a meal in the old kitchen, he found an unexpected ally in his own memories. The very space that once exuded warmth and togetherness now seemed to hold the potential for transformation. With a quiet intensity, he began to rebuild his sense of self around the fragments of his former life. Every ingredient he selected, every stirring of the pot, was a deliberate act of reclaiming control over the narrative of his existence. The kitchen became a crucible where grief was transmuted into a steely resolve, a resolve that was slowly morphing into the blueprint for his planned retribution. Michael's plan was not born of a fleeting impulse, but rather of a deep-seated need to regain his dignity and to show Elena that the betrayal she had inflicted was not without consequence. He began to gather evidence of the life they had once built together, the photos, the love letters, even the small trinkets left behind in forgotten corners of the home. Every artifact was examined, every memory dissected, for hidden meanings and clues that might explain the depth of her deception. His investigation led him down a labyrinthine path of self-discovery, forcing him to confront not only the betrayal of his heart, but also the complexities of his own identity. It was in this relentless pursuit of truth that Michael began to uncover startling revelations about the nature of love and the painful interplay between memory and reality. Late one rainy night, as the kitchen glowed under the soft luminescence of a single hanging lamp, Michael stumbled upon an old diary tucked away behind a loose brick in the pantry. The diary, yellowed with age and filled with cryptic entries written in a hurried, passionate hand, belonged to Elena. In its pages lay the secrets of a love that had been as tumultuous as it was all-consuming, a love that had led her to make choices that would ultimately shatter the trust between them. As Michael read each entry, he felt as though he were intruding into a private world of desires, regrets, and twisted justifications. The words were raw and unfiltered, exposing the vulnerabilities of a woman who had been torn between duty and the allure of forbidden pleasures. Yet, in those pages, Michael also found evidence of manipulation and deceit, a pattern that suggested that the betrayal was not a singular event, but a calculated act born of selfish ambition and a hunger for something more than what their union could offer. The discovery of the diary marked a turning point in Michael's journey. It was as if the kitchen, with its every creak and whisper, had guided him to the final piece of a puzzle that he had been trying to solve for years. The revelations within those fragile pages ignited a fury in his heart, a fury that was tempered by the need for precision and planning. Michael began to see that his path to revenge would not be a rash or impulsive act. It would be a carefully orchestrated performance, one that would force Elena to confront the full weight of her betrayal in the most public and irrevocable way possible. In the weeks that followed, Michael set his plan into motion. He reached out to old friends and trusted confidants, each meeting held in the secrecy of twilight or behind closed doors where no prying eyes could witness the birth of his retribution. He collaborated with a local journalist known for exposing hidden scandals, sharing with him fragments of his painful past and the damning evidence he had uncovered. The old kitchen, once a place of solace and personal reflection, now echoed with the clamor of preparation. Each moment spent there was an act of reclaiming not only his home, but his life. Every utensil and appliance became a symbol of his resolve. The worn-out spice rack, the battered coffee maker, even the creaking cabinet doors, each served as a silent accomplice in his quest for justice. As Michael's investigation deepened, the community around him began to take notice. Whispers of his transformation spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. A once quiet, unassuming man was now the center of a mystery that seemed to defy the boundaries of ordinary life. The local newspaper picked up fragments of the story, hinting at a tale of love gone awry and the brewing storm of retribution. Michael became an enigma, a man whose pain had metamorphosed into a relentless pursuit of truth and a determination to expose the underbelly of deceit. His every move was scrutinized, his every word dissected by those who had grown accustomed to the idea that even the deepest wounds could sometimes give birth to the most unexpected acts of courage. Yet, amid the growing public interest and the mounting tension of his carefully laid plans, Michael's internal struggle remained profoundly personal. The kitchen, with its silent witness to both the joys of love and the agony of betrayal, was a constant reminder of a life he had once dreamed of, a life that had been stolen from him by the one person he had trusted above all. In the quiet solitude of early mornings and the reflective hush of midnight, Michael would stand alone in that kitchen, gazing at the relics of his former happiness with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. The memories of Elena's laughter, the warmth of her embrace, and the quiet conversations that had once filled the space now mingled with the bitter taste of betrayal and the promise of impending retribution. It was during one of these solitary moments that Michael made a final, irrevocable decision. The time had come to bring his plan to its dramatic climax. He would use the very stage that had been the setting for his joy and his agony, the old kitchen, as the arena for Elena's reckoning. With a steely determination that had been forged in the crucible of his grief, he set about orchestrating an event that would force her to confront the consequences of her actions in a way that would be both public and irrevocable. The day of reckoning arrived on a cool, overcast afternoon when the skies threatened rain and the air was heavy with anticipation. Michael transformed the kitchen into a stage of revelation. He arranged every detail with painstaking care. The placement of the antique table, the lighting that bathed the space in an eerie, almost theatrical glow, the strategic positioning of photographs and mementos that chronicled their past together. Each element was a testament to the life they had once shared, a life that now stood as both a monument to what had been and a battleground for what was to come. In the midst of this meticulously arranged scene, Michael invited Elena to return to the home they had once shared. Under the guise of reconciliation, he hoped that she would come, unaware that the house itself had become an instrument of his carefully measured revenge. Elena, caught in the web of her own making, arrived with a mixture of trepidation and lingering nostalgia. The sight of the familiar kitchen, bathed in an otherworldly glow, stirred memories within her. Memories of laughter, shared secrets, and promises that had been made in the quiet hours of the night. But as she stepped further into the space, the air seemed to thicken with unspoken truths, and the weight of her past transgressions pressed upon her like a heavy shroud. Without a word, Michael began his performance, a silent monologue delivered through the carefully curated relics of their shared history. He pointed to each artifact with a measured calm, his eyes never betraying the storm of emotions that churned beneath the surface. There was the faded photograph of a happier time, the handwritten note tucked into the back of an old recipe book, the remnants of a love that had once seemed eternal. Each item was a damning piece of evidence, a fragment of the life that Elena had betrayed. As the minutes ticked by, the atmosphere in the kitchen became charged with suspense, each second stretching into an eternity of unspoken judgment. Elena's facade of indifference began to crumble as the realization of Michael's intentions dawned upon her. Her eyes, wide with disbelief, darted from one relic to the next, each telling a story of love, loss, and the irreversible consequences of deceit. In that charged silence, Michael's voice finally broke through, a soft, measured tone that recounted the moments of betrayal, the unheeded warnings, and the painstaking reconstruction of a shattered trust. It was a monologue that was both an accusation and a requiem, a lament for what had been lost and a declaration of the irrevocable justice that was now unfolding before her. As the final words fell from his lips, a palpable stillness descended upon the room. The kitchen, once a sanctuary of shared dreams, had become the stage for a cathartic release of pent-up sorrow and indignation. Elena's face, a canvas of remorse and shock, betrayed the inner turmoil that she had long sought to conceal. In that moment, Michael's carefully orchestrated revenge was complete, a bittersweet triumph that was as emotionally devastating as it was inevitable. In the aftermath of that fateful day, the old kitchen remained a silent witness to the transformation of two souls. For Michael, it was a place of painful closure, a testament to the journey from heartbreak to a fierce reclaiming of self-worth. The memories that once haunted him were now interwoven with the resolve that had driven him to exact his long-awaited retribution. The space that had once been filled with the echoes of shared laughter and whispered promises now resonated with the quiet power of truth and the unyielding determination to rise from the ashes of betrayal. Elena, forever marked by the confrontation in the kitchen, was left to grapple with the irreversible consequences of her actions. The public unveiling of her duplicity had not only dismantled the illusion of a once perfect life, but it also forced her to confront the depths of her own guilt. In the days and weeks that followed, she retreated into a life of isolation, haunted by the specter of her past and the inexorable reminder that some betrayals could never be forgiven. The echoes of that day continued to reverberate through the quiet corridors of the home they had once shared, a constant reminder that every action, no matter how concealed, would eventually come to light. For Michael, the journey did not end with revenge. The kitchen, with its every imperfection and every lingering scent, had become the crucible in which he forged a new beginning, a life built on the foundation of truth, resilience, and the promise of renewal. Each day, as he prepared his meals or sat alone at the worn wooden table, he felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that he had reclaimed a part of himself that had once been lost to betrayal. The pain of the past, while never entirely erased, had been tempered by the knowledge that he had taken control of his destiny. And in the silent solitude of that familiar space, he began to build a future where trust could be rebuilt, piece by piece, amidst the lingering echoes of a love that had once burned so brightly. Over time, the community that had once whispered in hushed tones about Michael's transformation came to see him in a new light. A man who had weathered the storm of betrayal and emerged with a quiet strength and an unwavering commitment to living honestly. The kitchen, with its timeless aura and the invisible threads of shared memories, became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of the most profound heartbreak, the human spirit can find a way to heal, to rebuild, and to ultimately forgive. In the end, the story of that old kitchen was not merely one of bitter revenge, but a saga of transformation, a journey that carried Michael from the depths of despair to the light of self-rediscovery. It was a story that spoke to the power of memory, the inevitability of truth, and the indomitable will to reclaim one's life from the wreckage of betrayal. And though the wounds of the past might never fully fade, in the echoes of that long-forgotten kitchen, Michael found the strength to move forward, each day forging a new narrative out of the ruins of what had once been, a narrative of hope, resilience, and the enduring promise of redemption.